Hello, everybody. Thanks for making time today. Um, we're going to discuss a little bit of how to get a permit from the Army Corps, uh, which is really just going to be a general overview of, our mission, and, the importance of what you all do, what we do, and we'll quickly go over the authorities that uh, we operate under, and then talk a little bit about permits and timelines. And then the bulk of the presentation, or hopefully the reason you guys are all here, is learn about our new exciting regulatory request system tool. It would just be a brief introduction to that tool, but we hope to get everybody up and using that in the very near future. So that will be kind of the focus. But first of all, I'm Paul Leffler. I am the South Branch Chief of the Regulatory Division in St. Paul. Our South Branch team covers the southern part of Minnesota, and all types of Clean Water Act and Section 10 Rivers and Harbors Act permitting. Catherine, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Catherine Beatty. I am a project manager with South Branch, and I sit in the La Crosse, Wisconsin field office, formerly the La Crescent field office, and I cover um, middle to southern Minnesota for permit for
Thanks,
request.
Catherine.
Mhm.
Um, so, we'll go over this agenda, but I think the most important thing is probably just to, get to know us and know that we're here to help and what we're about, and that we're looking for ways to improve always. And so this outreach is a part of us showing a new tool, but also hopefully improving public service and improving some of our efficiencies, and ultimately getting to quicker decisions, better decisions quicker. So let's get into it. First of all, our regulatory mission is to protect the nation's aquatic resources and navigation while allowing for reasonable development and through fair and balanced decisions. So that is what we're focused on. This is our mission. We are, and I just want to get ahead of this. We are part of the Army. We are the Army Corps of Engineers. So we do use terms like mission, mission first, people always is the saying. No, we don't have to do push-ups, and no, we're not active duty military members. Most of the folks that work at the Army Corps are civilians. In St. Paul District, we have over 700 employees, and only a few of them are uniformed officers. But certainly the head of our district is Lieutenant Colonel Rudd, so we are connected to the military in a meaningful way. And to me, I think it's great to be part of such an amazing team that runs towards challenges and never shies away from them. So hopefully that comes through in your interactions with our team. Um, the regulatory is meant to be objective. In regulation, we're not proponents or opponents of a project. We, do recognize the importance of the projects that we work on. And, simply put, our job is to help folks comply with the laws that we administer. Um, we aspire to be timely, predictable, transparent, consistent. And this is a really tough task with changing regulations and evolving uh, um, rules, laws, processes, tools. So we constantly are having to remind ourselves of how to do this and work towards achieving this mission end state listed here. Also, I just want to point out that this objectiveness, proponent, non-opponent, also gets to kind of the Army Corps itself, that we are an apolitical organization. There's no one within our agency that's a political appointee. That's a little different than some other federal agencies. So I just want to highlight that, but that's not necessarily, we're still subject to political pressures. We're funded by Congress. We're here to do a job and do it successfully as intended by Congress and political leadership. So It's just kind of an important thing I think to point out. Um, and then one other thing I want to highlight is that we uh, I really appreciate you all being here because you guys help us do our jobs better. You guys are liaisons for our processes, and you guys talk to folks more than we do, probably explaining how, what our purpose is and how to get through our processes. And we aim to provide superior public service, but we couldn't do it without you and helping us achieve that. And you guys all do it in so many different ways. So I just want to thank Wetland Professional Associates for having us here. And I want to thank you guys all for being here. I unfortunately have had experiences without, applicants that have tried to go through our process without having someone else advising them besides us. And, that can be a very difficult process. And unfortunately, we don't have the resources to walk everyone through the process on every bit of information they need and that kind of thing. So with the help of other agencies, consultants, watershed districts and um, local municipalities that we've partnered with, it really is helpful to have many voices and working together to get the job done. Um, so again, I want to connect you with the why before we get into a lot of the details of our our team is committed to providing great public service. This regulatory public service commitment is something that we have posted right when you walk into our office in St. Paul and all our field offices. We hand this out to new employees. We provide specific training on this and talk about it pretty frequently. So we take it seriously. We understand that the projects we review, the decisions we make, collectively affect millions of people and can cost billions of dollars. So we take that seriously on the communities we serve and the projects that we review. The saying that really sticks with me on a daily basis is that regulatory is controversial because it's consequential. Whether the project we're reviewing is a giant mine of critical national importance or a small single family homeowner or business, those projects are really important to those people and the communities that we live in and serve. So we keep that in mind with everything we do. So these are our commitments: be professional. We try to make fair and reasonable decisions. We try to stay up on all the latest regulations, trainings, court cases, so we can communicate that well and anticipate how to interpret, different regulations and rules and reviewing applications. We do our best to be honest and transparent, admit mistakes when we make them, and timeliness. I know probably we talk about this probably too much, but efficiency is something that we're laser focused on, and our leadership often asks about and wants us to report back on how we're being timely, being accountable for the decisions we make, and being respectful for those we serve. So just want to highlight that. Probably something a little inside baseball that you guys probably don't see too much, but I just want to highlight that our team is really committed to that. All right, let's just make sure we get on the same page. But before we get started with some basics of the authorities, I kind of wanted to ask, I don't know if this WebEx really provides the opportunity for feedback, but I'm assuming many of you have interacted with our program. Is there a way I could ask how many of you have submitted a request to the Army Corps or an application or anything? Maybe show of hands.
I think there's a wave function or yeah.
All right, I see lots of thumbs up, see some hands raised. Okay. All right. That's exactly what I was expecting. Okay, great. Appreciate you guys. So I won't spend too much time on this, but even these basic things we have to remind ourselves all the time. Being working in the Army Corps for decades, still learning exactly the history of our program and how to apply it, and some of those details are really important in interpreting things. So just bring it back. Our program's been around for over 100 years, since the Section 10 and Rivers and Harbors Act was passed in 1899. So we've been doing this a while and making a difference. This is a great example in Manhattan of some navigation issues they are experiencing and why the Rivers and Harbors Act was passed, giving the Army Corps the authority to regulate all structures or work in, over, or under navigable waters. And there it is today, a lot easier, clearer navigation, less conflict there. The other authority, Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, gives us the authority to regulate the discharge of dredged or fill material in waters of the U.S., including jurisdictional wetlands. So this was passed in reaction to the Cuyahoga River in Ohio being so polluted that it would set ablaze frequently to the point where they had a fire department specifically dedicated to putting those fires out. So the Clean Water Act overall has been a huge success in cleaning up the nation's water. So that's something to be proud of. Not to say that the job is finished, though. So as far as under Section 404 of the Clean Water Act, a permit's needed when there's a discharge of fill material. This slide here kind of explains a few examples of when a discharge of fill material might occur. I typically think of that first bullet, fill material place that raises the bottom elevation of that aquatic resource would be considered fill. But also you could think of grading activities and anything like that. But more importantly for this presentation, I want to highlight 404F exemptions. This kind of applies to the regulatory request system a bit. So the regulatory request system is going to put a little bit more onus on consultants and applicants and how they submit information and what exactly they're requesting. And so potentially you could be requesting a no permit required based on one of these Section 404F exemptions. So being familiar with them is important. Typically we get those, we review applications and make sure that these exemptions apply or don't. And, normal farming activities often meet those exemptions. The maintenance of currently serviceable structures, the construction or maintenance of irrigation ditches, maintenance of drainage ditches, farm, stock pond work, and farm and forest roads could all qualify for those exemptions. Okay. So there's a few different types of Army Corps permits. The most common is our general permits. These can be our regional general permits or nationwide permits. Here in St. Paul District, we've developed about 8 regional general permits for Minnesota and Wisconsin that covers activities specific to this area or common in this area. And then, of course, there's the nationwide permits that were just issued earlier this year on a nationwide level. These are, again, cover common activities. They provide an upfront NEPA analysis at the national level so we can avoid extensive analysis and paperwork for activities with relatively minor impacts. So the nationwide permits are reissued every 5 years. That can be a big lift for our team and a struggle for the regulated community, understanding how the expiration of the previous 5 years permits and the new ones and the changes and how those apply. So we just got through all that, and hopefully you guys all came out on the other side unscathed. I think overall, this is a huge benefit to the regulated community to have these permits that are efficient. Typically our team can review a general permit within 30 days of a complete application. That's what we're averaging. But the target nationally is 60 days. So that just kind of goes to show that our team is very responsive and trying to perform at a high level. I guess but the important thing to note on that 60-day review timeline, our average of 30 days, that's from a receipt of a complete application. Typically, I would say at least half the time we don't receive a complete application. There's often things missing. I would say maybe just recently, just thinking about projects that don't describe their impacts clearly enough, don't identify them on a plan set well, not proposing mitigation. Those are maybe some of the most common things for it being considered incomplete. And so, of course, that can extend the review times considerably, a lot of back and forth to try to get that information. The RRS system, the regulatory request system, will help us and you get submit those complete applications to us from the get-go. Because if you're submitting the information in there, it will let you know that you're missing something, that the application's incomplete, almost in real time. So that's going to be a big advantage of the RRS, rather than waiting for a project manager to get assigned and then they're hitting their desk and they're spending a lot of time reviewing it and finding that something's incomplete and then writing a letter. That can be a lot more time consuming. So we're hopeful that that will be a nice feature of the RRS. I also want to highlight pre-construction notifications. Most of our many of our general permits have a non-notifying non-notifying requirement if you meet certain parameters. Usually it's a small impact threshold, or certain types of activities don't require notification. So it's important to kind of understand the pre-construction notification requirements for any given nationwide or general permit. We call these 0-day permits. If you qualify, if you meet the terms and conditions of those, you don't need to notify our office. But you do need to, carefully review those terms and conditions that may qualify for the no pre-construction notification, and review those regional conditions, as well as other requirements. I would say one of the biggest things that would a general condition that you'd really want to pay attention to is if there's endangered species in the area, if there's Section 106 Historic Preservation Act concerns. If there's any type of concern like that, then you wouldn't qualify for the non-notifying permit. So definitely carefully review that. There's a little bit of risk on the applicant, but we do want folks to take advantage of that. We don't want to be notified if you guys are qualifying for those permits, and they're relatively minor in nature and you're meeting all the terms and conditions. The other thing to pay attention to is if the 401 water quality certification blanket covers that activity. You might not be required to notify us, but you might need an individual 401 water quality certification from the MPCA. Something that comes to mind for me is that the new nationwide permits for nationwide permit 27 restoration enhancement doesn't require a pre-construction notification, but could require an individual 401 from MPCA. However, the nationwide 27 does require reporting. It's a little confusing, but hopefully in that reporting of 30 days, we would catch that an individual 401 would be necessary and we'd let you know. But the general message I'm trying to get across is just be aware of those conditions and the terms of that permit, the individual 401, before proceeding with any work. Okay, I want to get back a little bit, just highlight the importance of efficiency to us and the importance of public service to us. That this graph here is something we report up regularly to our leadership and to Congress, that Congress gave us money 4 years ago to improve our delivery, and we've done that. This graph shows that we average about 2,000 general permit decisions per year here in St. Paul. And over the last 4 years, we've improved our service considerably. Currently, we're at 91% of all the general permits that we receive. We make a decision within 60 days. And again, I'll reiterate once again, that is usually within 30 days. We've kind of leveled off there. The ones that I think we don't reach within 60 days often do have some other issues that require more time to work through. Typically, I would say it would probably be a 106 historic preservation concern, coordinating with SHPO, doing some phase 1 surveys. That kind of stuff can really extend our timelines. But there's a variety of other reasons as well. Okay. Types of permits. Again, the other type other than a general permit would be our individual permit. If you don't qualify for one of those nationwide or regional general permits, you're going to go through our individual permit process. This is usually reserved for those more complex projects that have greater impacts to waters of the U.S. So these often take much more of our time, effort, and review, and a lot of more back and forth, a lot of more stakeholders usually involved, requires public notice to all agencies, adjacent property owners, and a more detailed NEPA review. I'd say one of the biggest challenges with these projects is the alternative analysis. Getting the information that that the applicant came to the conclusion that this was the necessary design, whether designs were considered, were offsite properties considered, can be a real challenge and sometimes can delay the process a little bit to figure that all out, because we have to justify our decision based on the least environmentally practical alternative. So that can be a real challenge for us. Typically, the goal for a standard permit is to get it done within 120 days from a complete application. And historically, it was considered maybe impossible to meet that on the national metric was 70% of our individual permits to be 120 days. But for this year is the first time ever the St. Paul district is achieving that metric. We're at 79% as of today of all our individual permits. You will note that there's much less individual permits reviewed here than general permits. It looks like, typically about 40 or 50 projects per year go individual permit. We're really proud of this progress. That's kind of why I'm showing it off. So thank you for indulging me. So do you need a jurisdictional determination to get a permit from the Corps? The answer is no. Jurisdictional determinations are not required to obtain a permit. Any permit application we receive, we will do our own internal analysis of whether or not the water on the site that's being impacted is jurisdictional or not. If it's not jurisdictional, we'll remove it from our review and we won't consider it. And so hopefully by removing that water, if it's non-jurisdictional, it will avoid any necessary additional requirements like mitigation, and it will narrow our scope of review, potentially turning an IP into a GP or a PCN to a no PCN, or maybe even a no permit required. But it's not required to submit a standalone jurisdictional determination. We only prefer only to do jurisdictional determinations if it will improve our service. Will it expedite, reduce, or eliminate a process for us? So number one, you don't really only need a jurisdictional determination if there's going to be an impact occurring there. And if it is jurisdictional, I think most would prefer a permit versus a jurisdictional determination. So we would advise to proceed down that route. If it's non-jurisdictional, again, we would eliminate that from our review. I wanted to emphasize this. I think overall we've been this is one of the reasons why we've been so efficient over the last 3 years, because I think about 4 years ago this was really kind of emphasized, and I think we've kind of gotten to this point where most of the regulated community understands this and has helped us achieve this. And I'm a little concerned about backsliding into getting inundated with thousands of jurisdictional determination requests again, because the RRS currently is accepting jurisdictional determination requests. So just because it's accepting them doesn't necessarily mean it's necessary. So I think it's really important to emphasize this again. This is my final slide, and then we can hand it over to Catherine. The um, so the regulatory request system is part of a long line of tools and efficiencies that we have developed over the years. And we're constantly looking ways to improve our level of service and exploring these efficiencies, providing trainings and making new tools. We're really proud of the fact that we have several members of our St. Paul team that have helped develop the regulatory request system and are currently on the national team to improve it. But there's a number of other tools that we have developed and have utilized internally. We've really improved our GIS tools and some field map tools that we use when we're out. We've improved and developed workload management tools, including Power BI. And we're just starting to leverage the power of AI and looking for there's going to be some additional opportunities in the next year or two for that. But regulatory request system is a priority of our leadership to implement here. I think it's an exciting new way to submit requests. It ensures we get the information that we need to make a decision. As Catherine will talk about, it will hopefully improve our responsiveness and transparency. But it's not the end all be all, right? Like there's still the human element of this. If you have a difficult project, if you're having trouble using the RRS, please reach out to us. Pre-application meetings are a great tool for especially more complex projects. But if there's other difficult things you're working through, then maybe a pre-application request is necessary. But also just giving us a call, and we will be providing more tips and tricks as this evolves. And then I just want to reiterate what I just said. No need to submit PCN requests. No need to submit standalone JDs. This doesn't change our approach at all. It just is a new tool for us to do better at our current approach. So I guess with that, I'll pass it over to you, Catherine.
Maybe just real quick before we move on, if you wanna maybe just pop open the chat quick, and it looks like we have. Oh, looks like there's some answers getting dropped in there, but there's maybe just a couple of quick questions on the slides if you maybe want to go over those quick.
Sure. Let's see what we got. Okay, so I see a question about the Corps working with Bowser to streamline things. Yes, no, we are continuing to work with Bowser, and that's we are working on right now with them uh, to implement the JPA on the Joint Permit Application on the RRS system. We're hopeful that it will work for us and the state, but just maybe even kind of um, to your point is there's going to be a few hiccups with it, and we're still learning on the best way of how that's going to work. And part of it's going to be trial and error, unfortunately. But I think that very shortly here, within the next month, we should have that some of those the initial kinks worked out, and have it live on our RRS system. Can you be more specific with what in the area means when considering listed species and historic properties? Oh, certainly. Well, so this question is in regard to non-pre-construction notifications. So I'll answer it from a notifying project, right? So when we have a 106 issue, we set the permit area. The Corps sets the permit area and defines whether or not the project, the undertaking, has effect on 106 resources. So defining that permit area, that would be if we would initiate 106 consultation or coordination if there was historic properties or potential for historic properties identified within that permit area. So I guess the similar kind of idea would apply to no PCN projects, although leaving it up to applicants on defining that permit area is a challenge. It's sometimes, it's difficult for us sometimes too. I would say if it's clearly outside your project, then you're probably safe. But if it's close, yeah, you probably want to submit and coordinate on that. And maybe worth a pre-application call or a quick call or contacting us on that. And then just bigger point, many of you probably have been trying to be very proactive about 106 issues and coordinating with SHPO, even on like bigger projects. And like good on you for doing that. However, that early coordination has been problematic for that same reason. The Corps needs to set the permit area. So as soon as you know your impacts, we can set the permit area. Even if the project's going to change a little bit, we can tell you what the permit area is, and that will help the coordination with SHPO. If you guys are coordinating early without that permit area being set, it's likely to be some issues with the SHPO's going. The first thing they're going to ask is, well, is there a federal undertaking? Okay, if there is, where's the permit area? And that's going to be a difficult conversation. So just giving you a heads up there, we would like to be involved early on 106 issues to help prevent some of those problems, but we're still learning about the best way to do that. Yeah, great question, Jenny, on the difference between PCN and reporting. We were thrown for a little bit of a loop with that nationwide 27 on how it has a reporting requirement, but not a no PCN requirement. I think the idea is that the nationwide 27 doesn't require us to have a formal application. It just requires the applicant to notify us, and then the idea being we have like 30 days to kind of figure out if this is an issue or not an issue. And if we don't respond, I think the idea is that you're good to go. But it is a little bit confusing. I understand that.
Awesome. I
Hopefully
appreciate
answers
that.
questions.
Thank you. Yeah.
Sure. Catherine? All right, we'll give her a minute.
I better make sure she's still on there. Let's see.
Oh, still a host.
Yes.
She's in timeout.
Yes.
I'm not.
Oh,
Okay,
there you
sorry, hold on. I just want to make sure that what I'm showing is not my notes and more.
Gotcha.
So let's make sure that I can do this correctly here. Can everybody see that okay? I guess I
No.
can't. You can't?
Let's see. There you go. I just made you the presenter as well, so maybe that will help.
Do you need me to try to reshare?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's do this one. This one. We'll do this.
There we go. Awesome.
Now do you just see the presentation and not my?
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, for those that maybe missed my introduction, my name is Catherine Beatty. I am a regulatory project manager with St. Paul District. I'm in the South Branch, which is southern Minnesota, from like the Twin Cities on down. And I am seated in the La Crosse, Wisconsin field office. Today, I'm just going to be going over some of the fundamentals of the regulatory request system, or the RRS as we call it. If you can hold on to your questions for the end, or feel free to drop them in the chat like you did during Paul's presentation, and then we can go over them afterwards. And I should preface this by saying our test environment for this application is currently down across the nation. So I was planning on doing some live demo stuff. We'll see how that goes. I do have some videos, so we'll see how that portion goes. I do have some screenshots and stuff like that, but I just wanted to preface that, of course, an hour before this presentation, our system-wide issue. So with that said, let's get started with the basics, okay? So what exactly is the regulatory request system? Essentially, the RRS is a national online platform for the entire Army Corps regulatory program. It's a centralized digital way for you to do business with the Corps regulatory program. It replaces our old paper and mail processes, makes things easier and more efficient. It's also a great resource for general information about our Corps regulatory program. At its core, the RRS portal serves two main functions. It allows you to submit your regulatory request digitally, and then it gives you also a live dashboard so you can track the status of those requests in real time. So there's no more wondering where your application is sitting. You can see what we can see. And then also for some of our power users in the audience, the system does support bulk data uploads, which also lead directly into our internal database, which would drastically cuts down on the manual data entry that needs to happen, as well as human error. So one of the most exciting features of the RRS is automation. For those eligible projects, the system can instantly generate a confirmation letter for either an activity-based no permit required and no PCN required nationwide permit requests, meaning you would get an immediate approval without waiting weeks for a manual review. We've also modernized how we communicate. Rather than playing phone tag or losing those emails in your junk email, you can request and respond to additional requests for information within the RRS portal, and it helps to keep communication transparent and accelerates the overall request processing. And finally, the RRS has a public notice module, which helps to increase transparency by letting the public and stakeholders easily search, view, and comment on active permit applications or other processes that may require a public notice within our program, such as mitigation banks, in lieu fee program, or any new regional general permit issuances. So in short, the RRS isn't just a new website, it's a complete modernization of how we're going to be working with you and working together. It's designed to make the permitting process faster, more transparent, and consistent nationwide. And I just also did want to point out there is a QR code here, which will bring you right to the RRS webpage, as well as here is the URL. So you can put your camera up to there and take that. But it is also on our website, the link. And most project managers should also have a link to the RRS in our signature block of our emails. So let's look at some of the primary benefits of us transitioning to the RRS. The modern technology, it produces higher quality submittals and increases the transparency. First, the RRS leverages the use of technology to streamline data entry. By inputting project specifications directly, applicants are able to take direct ownership of their data. This increases accountability, ensures data integrity, and eliminates some manual data entry bottlenecks and errors. So less people, less hands touching the data. The RRS also results in higher quality applications. So the system uses automated validation to ensure that all the required fields are completed before you can move on to the next screen or before you can submit something to us, which results in more accurate and complete submissions to us. And this also reduces administrative work, so then our project managers can focus more on the actual permit review rather than the paperwork or reviewing, asking for additional information for a complete application. And additionally, this is a national platform, so it will provide a consistent and familiar process for applicants that work across either different states or with different core districts. And then finally, the RRS increases transparency, and it takes the mystery out of the review process. The portal features automated email alerts at key milestones, like when you get a project manager assigned and what your file number is. And there's a real-time dashboard that shows your project's general status. And that would just, eliminate the need for those check-in emails and cuts out any unnecessary back and forth. But of course, we're not discouraging you from contacting us. In fact, we are encouraging you to. If you have any questions, it's just a tool that you can use to easily see if your request has been assigned to a project manager and where it is in the process. So in short, the RRS results in better data, less paperwork, and total transparency, which leads to faster, more predictable permitting decisions within our program. So why should you use ERS? So first and foremost, it was designed to be easy. We know that our regulatory program is very complex. It was built with an intuitive, user-friendly interface. There are countless references and guidance materials embedded into the RRS, including tutorial videos and guidance documents and links to regulations. Furthermore, it provides the nationwide consistency, whether you have a project in Minnesota or if you are working a project in Maryland, the process and expectations and the digital interface will remain the same. The second major benefit is transparency. It removes that guesswork from the permitting process through that centralized dashboard. You have a real-time visibility into your project status, coupled with a improvement in communication. The system allows for that direct streamlined communication between core regulators and applicants and agents, and reducing those phone calls and lost emails. I'm sorry, the phone tag emails, meaning not the phone calls, but just the phone tag emails are missing each other. But the biggest advantage for you is the speed and quality. So the RRS creates a high quality, consistent data entry efficiencies. The system guides you into putting the correct data in the first time. It will significantly reduce the administrative tasks and touch points on our side, which those fewer touch points means fewer errors, and fewer errors means faster core responses and quicker project decisions. So by putting the data entry directly into your hands, we're eliminating the bottlenecks of manual processing, and then project managers can then focus on the actual permit review. So the bottom line is the RRS is a better, faster, and more transparent way to do business. And the use of the RRS is highly encouraged, and I think Paul already mentioned, but and we do have it, it's highly encouraged for this at this time for certain requests that are available. But come September 1st, we are anticipating only accepting requests this way. So encourage you to get familiar with it. So speaking of the requests, let's look at how the RRS is rolling out here in the St. Paul district. We are actively accepting several key request types through RRS that you can, that helps to immediately streamline your planning and review process. You can submit requests for pre-application meetings or project scoping requests directly in the RRS. If you have a complex project or you need early guidance from the Corps, this is the fastest way for it to get on our radar, for it to get assigned, a file number, and then us to have those conversations. We're also accepting requests for approved jurisdictional determinations, or AJDs. By submitting those AJDs through the RRS, we can more quickly help you determine the jurisdictional status of those aquatic resources present at your site, which can either reduce, eliminate, or expedite the overall permitting process. And then if applicable, there are 2 specific automated screening tool modules that are available that can help to streamline a core response. There's the no permit required, which is an activity-based, no permit required automated letter. And then there's a no pre-construction notification for certain, nationwide permits that have that as an option. Because these requests do rely on specific criteria rather than a lengthy review, submitting them through the RRS can allow the system to guide you through those questions and requirements. And then if your project qualifies, it leads to a much faster core response. And then finally, we know that the federal and the state permitting coordination is a vital part of what consultants do. What we aren't accepting permit applications through the RRS at this time. It will be soon. We do have a couple of active initiatives underway. So in the state of Minnesota, we are currently actively collaborating with our state partners to finalize and implement the joint permit application, or the JPA, within the RS. And then in Wisconsin, currently it's looking like, because I know some of you know we're talking Minnesota, but I'm sure some of you have projects in Wisconsin. Currently, we're looking at that the permit process will probably have to remain separate between the state and the core, or the federal side of things. So applicants would need to submit their federal permit applications to the core via the RRS, while simultaneously, maintaining their existing application process with the state of Wisconsin. So to summarize, RRS use in St. Paul. Please do start using the RRS today for your pre-application or scoping request, your AJDs, or any of those streamlined no PCN nationwides or activity-based no permit required requests. And stay tuned for further updates on our joint state application integrations. So with that, I will pause. Oops. For any questions. To see if anybody
We have
has any
one in the
questions.
chat. Says, does RRS allow for multi-person access to a project? We often have consultants assist with applications, and I'd like to be able to review the status through the RRS system if they initiated the project request. Great question.
Yes, I believe there is and Jeremy may, I know he's on, may be able to give a little more context, because he is actually a detailee from New England district that is helping us, and New England has been using this system longer than we have. But I'm fairly confident that there is a way to share what you start in your requests in the system with others, so that they can review it before submitting. And I don't know if Jeremy has, I don't think he's going to be able to talk if he's muted.
Yeah, that's my understanding too.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And I just was
Mark says
curious,
wonderful.
and I will say this is kind of in a beta. It's a constantly evolving program. We're getting feedback from all across the country for users using it. So we're constantly trying to improve and make modifications. We are kind of later in the game just because of our joint permit applications with the state. But like I said, there are those other modules that you can use for, that are not necessarily applications or other requests that we would be submitting from the core. And those are available right now.
I have added
Yeah.
Jeremy as a co-host as
Catherine,
well if you want to unmute yourself. Oh,
Sure.
thank
Sorry, I
you.
can't see the screen either, so I'm going in blind. So yeah, Paul, I appreciate it.
I was just going to add the ability to add a second or multi-person to the project is in the works. It's not currently live, but it's one of the few highly requested items that we are actively working on to add. So though not live currently, it's on the way.
Thanks,
Jeremy.
And really quick.
And Paul, was there another question?
Really quick, Catherine, I just wanted to say I just ran an RRS test and it was working for me. So.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully it's back up.
Wonderful.
And I'll just highlight one of the reasons that sometimes it's hopefully today is that they're doing updates. We know they do updates regularly based on feedback. There's a team of folks that that take this feedback and implement it almost as immediately as possible. That level of feedback and implementation should give you guys an idea of just how important this is to the Army Corps, anyways, and then overall, St. Paul District is learning from other districts as well, and their implementation. Jeremy's from New England District, so he's been using it for a little bit, and certainly like Rock Island District's been using it for a while too. So we've taken lessons learned from them and are trying to apply it here. And then just to one of the questions earlier about the joint permit application, that's been one of the sources delays for us, is that we didn't want to abandon that process. We have such great state and local partners here, and that process has worked really well for us. That we want to keep that going, and we're hopeful that it will improve, everybody's coordination. Unfortunately, in Wisconsin, we've ran into some roadblocks where we don't think that's possible at this time to join those processes, but we're working something out there as well to make sure that we don't that we're still coordinating appropriately with the state. Jenny's got a question, but she wants to ask it verbally. Is there any chance we can unmute Jenny?
Yeah, let's see. I can put it in here quick.
And Catherine, do you want to try pulling up the RS and see if we can?
Yeah, I mean, I do have a couple other slides before, but
Okay, sure.
I can stop sharing this or in my slideshow and see if I can pull it up.
All right.
While you're, oh, sorry, I was just going to say, while you're adding Jenny to the program, some of these like improvements, if there's some frustrations that you have, or there's an area where you think that we could improve, we do have a feedback tool that goes direct to the national team. So any sort of individual improvements or anything like that, there is a module within the RRS that Catherine will be able to show you, where you can just live input suggestions, improvements, feedback. Because it is a beta, we can make changes. So if there's something that's really bothering you, or you see areas for efficiency improvements, please let us know.
I was able to unmute, so can I ask my questions now?
Yes, please.
My name's Jenny Skanke, and I am the Wetland Program Coordinator for the DNR, and we collaborate with Bowser on a lot of our regulatory permitting across the state. And I wanted to say we have tested out the RRS with one of our projects that qualifies under one of the general permits, and I had a pretty easy time of it, and was able to speak to the core project manager, and that was really helpful. So far so good. I do want to say I was able to add somebody else, so I don't know, Jeremy said that wasn't live yet, but I was able to do it pretty easily, as long as they were able to go ahead and create an account. So, they have to have their own login and everything, but then I was able to add them really easily.
And share it.
My question mainly is so I understand you're coordinating with Bowser so that we can, in Minnesota, still try to have not a parallel track with our state and federal, but with more of a coordinated single track like we've been doing in the past with the joint application. And I see here that you've hit a roadblock, but with Wisconsin, am I understanding correctly that we're not there yet with Minnesota, but you haven't hit a roadblock? So would the idea be that a person would input online with the RRS and then perhaps be able to email that to our LGU as the state application? So we would try to use the RRS system as kind of a joint application. Is that where you're going with things?
That is like that is the plan. I think the concern is, I know we do have a Bowser user that has been doing some internal testing for us, and it's just him. it's kind of the format and making sure that we have all the information covered within we have added, you know, kind of that additional information from the JPA to our permit request. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
we're getting closer, and I think we've had some work. They gave us some feedback, and we're waiting on that to get incorporated. So we've been having multiple touch points and meetings with them. So I think hoping to get kind of to that, but the idea is, yeah, that stuff would come into us initially, so that we could take it first, and then, you know, it would be disseminated. Now, how
Yeah.
that process is going to work, we haven't figured that out yet in terms of
Sure.
who passes that on, because, you know, with so many LGUs, it can be very complicated. So I'm not sure. That has not yet been worked out, so it's in the works still.
Yeah, that's great.
We're
It might be
Jenny,
great to
just
get an extra user in that collaborative group, perhaps.
I'm sorry,
good idea.
you said, okay. Are you saying you're interested?
Add an extra user in that collaborative group.
I'm
Yeah.
saying I could be a user
Okay.
for that, as someone who's a little bit somewhat removed from the Bowser situation, but also undertaking this for our agency. So yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hey,
Paul, did
thanks
you
for
want
the
to say
feedback,
something?
Jenny. We'll definitely
Oh, might be losing Paul a little bit.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Okay.
oops.
I can't see him. So is he
Oh, yeah.
frozen?
He hasn't left the meeting yet, but yeah.
Okay.
You might have to join back in.
Okay. I'll keep moving on then. Is there no other questions? Oh, is that Paul?
Yep, there he is. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was I'm having communication issues?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
we
we didn't
lost
hear
you.
anything you said.
Ugh. I just want to say that about the Bowser issue and the joint permit application stuff, we're close to figuring it out. We're at the doorstep. We thought we would be done by now, and we thought we'd be introducing that to you all today. But there are some important discussions that we need to have and figure out a few details, but we're close. So what our plan is to make an announcement, or we'll have a public notice out announcing like the rollout of this. And we also are putting together a list of tips and potential FAQs, and that kind of stuff will be out soon. Over.
Okay. Am I good to move on?
I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, so now I'm going to move into kind of the demonstration portion of the presentation and I'm going to go over logging into the RRS, the home screen information menu, and utilizing that the top right utility tabs to manage your workspace. And then I'll demonstrate how, you know, initiating early coordination using the pre-application or scoping request module is beneficial, and show you how we track public involvement through the public notice interface. And then I'll try to go over some of the automated screening and determinations by looking at those RRS efficiency driving tools. Yeah, and then we'll go over some questions at the end. Like I said, we were having some issues, but hopefully I do have, let's see how this goes, because I do have a screen, so I'll just explain. Yeah, I do have some screenshots initially, and then I'll kind of go into the live demo. So first of all, let's talk about how you access it. So if you go to that URL, you'll come to this screening page. I did want to point out that I am going to be presenting in our test environment. So you'll see test in the URL. This is not the test environment. This is the one you would be using. But don't worry, it mirrors the production environment that that you would be using by entering and submitting requests. Um, so we just have the test environment as a way for us to kind of provide that feedback to the developers and have them incorporate it and, you know, test out various scenarios. So that's why I'm in this test environment. So then you'll go to the RRS website. And I did want to point out as well that a lot of these modules, so you'll see there's 8 modules here listed on the home screen. A lot of them actually do not require you to have an actual login to access the information. The only ones that require a login are start a request and report a violation. The other ones, the public notice, and these are all available information, so they're more informational and they're so you do not need a login. But in order to actually submit a request to us, you do need to get a login.gov account. See here. And if you don't have a login, so you'll go to that sign in page, and actually let's see if I can do this now. I wonder if this changes if I put the screen on here. Did it change to the live one or not? Anyone? Sorry, can't see.
Yep.
Yep.
So you do so it did change the, well, that doesn't look different. Like if I'm moving around in it, can you see that?
Yep.
Can you see the support page? Oh, perfect. Great. Okay. So I'm actually logged in right now. So I can log out and actually. Okay, so here's where you want to sign in here. If you do not have a login.gov account, you will be you can create an account here, and then once you have that, you can sign in using your login account. Again, this is a test, so it's not I'm not using my core email. So once you're logged in, it'll bring you back to the RRS home screen. And if you never need to get to this main dashboard, just you can just click home, and that gives you to those 8 buttons that we that I just kind of quickly went over. Oh, then it switched. Interesting. Sorry, I'm trying to switch between the live portion and the, see here, leave this. Okay. So right here, start a request is where you would go if you know exactly what you're requesting. If you know you need a pre-application meeting, or if you know you want to request an AJD, like this is the button you would start with here. The public notices button is where you can review, anyone from the public can review and comment on any active public notice nationwide. We also have the option to report a violation within our program here. Like I said, you do need a login to do that. The RRS support tab has options, like Jeremy mentioned, to provide feedback and support and login help. The jurisdiction information has a lot of information on the types of waters that we regulate. So if you have questions on whether a property has a jurisdictional water or not, there's a lot of useful resources in this one. We also have the permitting information. It explains our permitting authorities and what types of permits are available, which Paul kind of already went over. We have mitigation information, which has a link to our mitigation rule, as well as a link to the mitigation and in lieu fee mitigation banking tracking system, or RIBITS as it's known. And then this last tab has general regulatory project information, program information. So yeah, I would definitely recommend taking a look at all these buttons. There's a lot of useful information embedded within the system about our program. Like I said, we know it's a complex program, so it's definitely beneficial to do that. Just switch screen again. Okay. So now I'm going to go into the regulatory program tab, and just wanted to point out some of those other topics I went over are accessible here from this left-hand screen. So under this regulatory program module, we have what our regulatory program is and our mission. There's also a way to get to forms and appendices. And I do want to note that the RS will generate these. Oops, oh shoot. Sorry, guys. Okay, here it's forms and appendices. So depending on the information that you input into the system, a lot of these forms or appendices will automatically get filled out and will be generated as you submit information into the RS. But if you do need or interested in getting a blank form, this is another way for you. And then here's also, a link to all of our regulations. So now we'll go on to the permit process guide tab. This has a helpful questionnaire where you can get some insight into whether what type of request you may want to submit to us. It also has an option to say, I'm not sure. So just walking through this, would you like the Corps to verify the extent and or jurisdictional status of any aquatic resources? If you say yes, have you done a delineation? Yes, I've done a delineation. So then it would tell you what kind of request you should submit to us. If you said, no, I'm not worried about jurisdictional status. I'm not sure if I need a permit, it would populate you and have you go to the permitting page. The permitting requirements are available permitting types. And then there's other specific questions on if you want to request a modification to an existing standard permit or get a re-verification. So here is what the jurisdiction tab looks like. It just has a lot of helpful information about essentially what waters we regulate. And as we all know, our definition of waters of the U.S. is constantly changing. So this is a helpful tab to kind of stay up to speed on what is currently under our jurisdiction. There's also, you can find out information between an AJD and a PJD here, which we do not do PJDs within St. Paul District. And we're going to go to the permitting tab. This just kind of outlines our authorities under our regulatory authorities that we operate under, more about our general permits and then, individual permits and requirements. Let's see here. You can also get a link to our website for the specifics. So we are within Mississippi Valley Division, St. Paul District, and as you'll see here, it says don't apply for a permit within Wisconsin or Minnesota yet, but there is a link here that will take you right to our district website where you can find also the general permits and the kind of the regional conditions that are associated with it within our district. And one of my favorite things that I wanted to point out here is, oh shoot. do that. Here we go. Are these permit application drawings? You know, oftentimes you're not sure what type of information needs to be put on your plans. So there are some awesome sample drawings that you can download and look at to kind of make sure you are including the information that we need for our review. And this is especially helpful for like kind of maybe your mom and pops that don't necessarily aren't getting permits or submitting a permit application to us frequently. So it kind of gives a good example of the information. Here's just information about the public notices and what is involved in a public notice. There's also a link to our regulatory announcements that there's a URL will link to our headquarters announcement page. And there's also a, you know, information about the mitigation rule as well as access to rivets for looking for credits. Top right tabs, let's get to that. So I'm gonna go back to the home page. And so up in the top right corner, we also have the home link, which then takes you back to those those 8 buttons that we just went over. There's also the support tab. And I will say this actually looks a little different in the test module than it is currently on the in the production or the public side of things right now. I think they're in the process of making it better. So that's why you'll see this looks a little bit different. I had to ask somebody about that, but they said, yeah, hopefully that'll get rolled out to the public soon. So here's where, you know, you can search for frequently asked questions or get quick answers to various topics. There's helpful articles here, as well as a bunch of video tutorials, step-by-step guides. And then here is how to submit a support ticket, and also how to find your regulatory office. Let me see there. I think up here is where. Oh, it looks different on. I'm not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure where they've. It's the same email. If you have, oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Help us improve. Yes. So here's where you can submit feedback in terms of if you have any suggestions. That it's essentially it's the same email that you would send either a support ticket to the RRS@usace.army.mil. So, and then also this is pretty neat. If you're not sure what core district you're in, this will link to this nifty map that will then identify, you know, it's the various districts, and then it provides contact information for the various entities, and then we'll link to the regulatory website. So if you know where your location is, it's kind of a helpful tool to know which district you'll be dealing or coordinating with. Close out of that. Again, on the top right here, we have a request page where you can submit your requests or get help in determining what kind of requests you want. And then here's also the dashboard. You can access the dashboard. So you can access it this way, or there's also, you can access the dashboard this way. So if I click on here, granted, this is the test environment, right? So these are just tests that I put in. As you can see here, you can see the status of a certain request, you know, a project name, the request type it's currently being put in as, you know, the district that it's in, the date it was created, and ultimately when it gets assigned to a project manager, it would get, you know, a DA number as well as the name of the project manager. Contact information would also be populated. This is a way you kind of could track if you have applications in multiple states or multiple districts. There's also a way for us to communicate and request additional information through the RRS. So it's kind of a transparent way to communicate those additional information requests and not going through email. And then you would be able to directly respond through the RRS to answer those requests for additional information. Okay, let's see here.
Hey, Catherine,
Okay.
we got about 10 minutes
Yes.
left. There's
Oh, shoot.
there's no questions in the chat other than there was one about will pre-application means need to be submitted through the portal now and then instead of through the general email at least
Please.
required as of September 1st. Yeah, that's how I answered it.
Yeah.
I would say
Please
any
start using.
function. Yeah. Yep. Anything that the RS can accept now, I would recommend using that. And then as of September 1st, we'll likely kick some of those back and, assist you through using the RS. So we can start receiving things through there, getting people familiar with it and working out any potential issues.
Okay. Really quick, again, this is a test environment. I was going to pull it up actually in here. You can see currently across the country, there are 159 public notices that are out for comment. So there's a way for you to click on them. And then there's a link to the actual public notice that you can actually, the public can read what the project is about. There's also a way to submit comments on that public notice directly. And it goes automatically into the RRS and is captured. So it's a really super efficient and transparent way for us to have that public notice process in the public. Okay, what's next? Let's see. Oh, okay, I was going to try to go after, at least I'll do a pre-app if I can, pre-application request to kind of walk through one of these. So if you say you have a project that you want to ask us for a pre-application, so what you would do is start a request. It asks if you have a new request or if there's an existing RS project. No, I do not have one. I'm going to give this project a test number. Has the Corps previously issued a file number for any part of the project area? No, I do not. Now this is really important. This is answered for any kind of requests, or these are the questions that are going to be asked of you for any kind of request that you submit to us. So you have three options or ways that you can identify your project location. You can type in an address, you can use a map, or you can upload a geodatabase. I'm just going to show you how to use the map functionality here. This is what was locking up on me before. So say I have a project. So it will automatically provide the project area, units. You can also include the parcel number, nearest water body, or directions to the project site if you want to. Those are not required. See, the ones with red asterisks are the things that are required for us. Then you would hit next. And so this is where you would say, so based on that project location, what type of request do I want? So where you can request, a delineation report, and that's kind of like when you have that initial one, you can submit that in there before it goes through the LGU in the TEP review. The jurisdictional determination requests. Here's the permit application, which is not yet functional, pre-applications, and then those two self-screening tools. But I'm just going to select the pre-application tool. And so it's giving you a warning, like, make sure that this is the right project location, because you know, it does a kind of screening for it based on this location. So if you do hit continue, you can't go back and modify your location. So make sure your location is accurate before you move on and to continue with the request. So I'm going to continue with that. Here's just some kind of pre-app information. And I am logged in as an agent. So I just wanted to point out that it automatically says, has the applicant hired an agent? That's automatically populated as yes. My role now is agent. So then you would need to put in your information, which you can populate, and then just use your profile data. Once you've done it once, you can save that, say add. And then if you are an agent, you do need to download and then upload a agent authorization form, which you can download it from here, get signed, and then to show that you are an authorized agent for that applicant. Then you would have to put in the applicant's name,
Yeah, a couple questions in the chat, Catherine, about
sure.
upload a KMZ or shapefile, and can you demonstrate how to save progress to complete later?
Oh, sure. Yep, let me doing these ones. I will do that save progress. We're gonna do a
And then we'll need to wrap it up. It's only 4 minutes left.
okay.
And we won't get the boot or anything. That's kind of a soft deadline, but
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So then here's project information. Say I need to take a break now. So I can just, you can save your progress here, and you can exit the form. And it's going to warn you any unsaved work will be lost, and you can say okay. And then if you go to your dashboard, this is the one I just created right here. Shows that I have a draft here for that test 123 for that pre-application. Under here, you can say edit request. So to get back into that, you can go to edit request, and it'll have saved the information that we've already put in. And then it'll take you to the screen where the next screen to add to. And then what was the question about the geodatabase? Is that possible? Was that the question?
yep, I think
Or
we're just if we can upload KMZ shape files to
yes.
the tool.
Oh, KMZ. I think it's a Jeremy, can you speak to that? I believe it's a
You'll be able to upload shapefiles and KMZs in the bulk upload / additional project information sheet too. When you're uploading wetlands, particularly the wetlands need to be a single
geodatabase.
file in the geodatabase.
Okay.
So all of
Okay.
the wetlands that are individual polygons need to be saved as a single polygon, and pulled. That wetland data needs to be pulled out for it to work. Currently,
Okay.
we're working on that.
Had the chance to kind of use that part yet, but I do know there was on the support page, I believe there is some specific GIS and geodatabase questions or kind of guides or walkthrough. And then here's how to prepare your geodatabase for RS upload. So another guide for that. So I don't know if you want me to keep going or with that pre-app. I'm sorry. Dashboard.
Yeah, no, I think that's been helpful for sure. So
I will note that there are little pop-outs that tell you the type of information that we want to see in each one of these boxes. So please note that. And again, it won't let you move on to the next, if I didn't fill this in, saying you need to resolve these things before you move on. So, I need advice. No lead fit or any of the items. Oh, and then it asks you to kind of, if you know of any endangered species, tribal, cultural, or Section 408, which is our 4 programs like levees and dams, or another core project that might need to provide authorization. And say, I'm not sure. Oh, download the right of entry form. Oh, if you need a site visit, you can provide contact information. Do you want to require on-site visit? I'll say no. So I don't think it'll be. And if I want to, add project plans, say, you can add your project plans here. Or say you have a delineation and you don't have project plans. You can just add this information. And then this would be, you can drag and drop them in here and you would add it. And then all of the things that you add additionally will become an appendices within your application. So then the next step would be to sign and certify. And it was telling me I need to go back to this spot because I need to resolve something. Because I didn't have the nature of the activity filled out. So I will keep going next. And then the last thing before, I submit, or submit my request for a pre-application meeting, you would need to sign it, and it needs to be, it's very specific in terms of capital letters. So make sure that your signature matches, and then you would just say submit request. So then it would, let you know it's been submitted to the St. Paul district. Then you can contact us. You should get an acknowledgement email once it has been taken into our system on the other end and assigned a DA project number. So this was the one I just submitted, right? I just wanted to show you that you can then go back and look at the documents that it created as a result, and this is what we will get on the other side once you submit it. So there's the actual pre-application form. I put some kind of a supporting file. Maybe I said that was the delineation. There was that agent authorization form, as well as a right of entry that needed. And I will show you. This is just if you want to get a copy of that, and that's what would need to then go to the LGUs once we figure that out. This would be kind of how the information is populated. I just wanted to kind of show you what this fills out once you put it in. So essentially, it just fills out one of our forms for a pre-application meeting request automatically. So then it's in. And one of the best parts about the RS is that data entry. So like the project location automatically will then talk to our database. So it will automatically already be in our database. So we don't have to go in and then try to figure out what you have on a map. Is this the right location? And that's why if you do have a geodatabase, that would be super, because then you don't, that's accurate as far as your boundaries of your wetlands or your project boundary. So I don't know if there are any other specific questions. I was going to go over some other requests. I don't know that I have time.
I think we'll have to leave it there, but if there's any
Sorry for
questions
going
or
over.
you got an exciting conclusion, Catherine, that you want to sum up, any thoughts?
Thank you for your time. And we're really excited about this. we hope you are too, that hopefully, you have all that information probably digitally as well. So it's a kind of, hopefully it'll be more efficient for you and you'll be receiving faster responses from us and, being able to kind of get those decisions out to you faster. So appreciate your
Yeah.
time and feel free to reach out if you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine. Definitely, it probably as you're picking up, we're still working through some issues, but nothing insurmountable. And this thing is live right now, so we're learning on the fly right now. So we do want to hear feedback. If there's things we didn't cover today, or if you just encounter a specific issue on a permit application, we do want that feedback and to help you through that. We can provide those slides, Samantha. Some of this stuff was a live demo though, so we won't be able to present some of that, but we can provide the rest of it. But yeah, thank you for attending, and thank you, Catherine, for presenting, and thank you for having us here today.
Yeah, thanks guys. On
Yes,
behalf of
thank you.
the WPA and the membership group here, I'd just like to thank you guys for your time and all the information. This was great, so really appreciate it.
I'll just end with we have a saying in the Army Corps, essayons. It's French for let us try, and let us try together to make this the best process possible, and appreciate your partnership. So essayons.
Yes, sir. You have a good one.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.